Hello everybody, welcome to the Plain Mundane Show. I'm Alex Aquarius. Today we're going to talk about this man on your left, General Albert Pike. This man was a Civil War general on the Southern Confederate side. And this man on the right, who is Giuseppe Mazzini, the leader of the Illuminati in Italy, over all of Europe at the time. And Albert was the leader of the Illuminati over all of the Americas at the time. So this letter is a correspondence between the two, and it's a letter written from Albert to Giuseppe, where Albert explains to him the plans for World War I, World War II, and World War III, which today, if you're listening, folks, hasn't happened yet, but it's about to, if you look what's happening and you see this letter. All right, now, one thing that's interesting to note, I've studied Albert Pike a lot. There's a few things interesting to note. I'll just tell you real quick. This man was mentored by a Belgian Jesuit missionary who lived in St. Louis, Missouri, whose name was Peter Desmet. His French name was Pierre Jean Desmet, D-E-S-M-E-E-T, if you want to look that up, who also mentored Brigham Young of the Mormons who were in Utah. Peter Desmet was going out among the Indians in the American continent and became friends with a lot of the Indian tribes, and was also an explorer that had explored the western states of the United States, the western territories, before even the Mormons arrived in Utah and told Brigham Young where to go. This guy, Peter Desmet, was also Albert Pike's mentor in occultism and the philosophy, the Jesuit philosophy. And this Albert Pike is also the man who wrote the book Morals and Dogma of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. All right. He is also the only man buried in Washington, D.C. under the checkered black and white floor of the Temple of the Masons in the District of Columbia. This is the only man buried under the floor. He's the highest ranking Freemason there ever was in the American continent and still revered. And we're going to read his letter to this guy, Mazzini, who was his equivalent over on the European counterpart area. Okay, let's get right to the letter. Albert Pike, letter to Mazzini. Let me switch screens here. The following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. The Pike letter to Giuseppe Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London until 1977. Boy, that's current. This letter has been claimed by many internet sites to reside in the British Library in London, which denies the letter exists. But they had it on display until 1977. That doesn't make sense. Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader of the mid-1800s as well as the director of the Illuminati. Albert Pike, a historical Masonic figure, is a 33rd degree Freemason occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the southern jurisdiction of the Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Following are apparently extracts from the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, and out of that making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and the Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the governments and in order to weaken the religions. Weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the Fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Let me interject here, folks. If you watch my videos, Is Mystery Babylon Catholic or Jewish? The origin and inception of the Vatican and the Catholic faith as Judaism. You look back at this letter written in 1871, he said World War II would be about institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. That happened. Okay, the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the Asian tour of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and the political Zionism of the State of Israel mutually destroy each other. We're seeing that today, folks. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight at the point of complete physical, moral, and spiritual economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world of minority revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will form that moment, be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view. All right, folks, if you listen to the Pope lately in the New World Order when they're talking about one true religion and the coexist and how all the religions are going to join into one, and Pope Francis is taking all of these religious leaders and doing these commercials about the one new religion, it's going to be the pure doctrine of Lucifer. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. If you watched my video on Mystery Babylon, the origins of Catholicism, is it Christian or Jewish, the destruction of Christianity is the destruction of a Judaistic movement from its inception that was the Catholic Church and the Vatican. Now let's read Albert Pike's biography. Pike was born in Boston, Massachusetts, son of Ben and Sarah Andrews Pike, and spent his childhood in Byfield and Newburyport, Massachusetts. His colonial ancestors included John Pike, the founder of Woodbridge, New Jersey. He attended a school in Newburyport and Framingham until he was 15. In August of 1825, he passed his entrance exams and was accepted at Harvard University. Though when the college requested payment of tuition fees for the first 2 years, he chose not to attend. He began a program of self-education, later becoming a school teacher in Gloucester, North Bedford, Fairhaven, and Newburyport. In 1831, Pike left Massachusetts to travel west, first stopping in St. Louis, where Peter Desmet was. I interjected that. And later moving to Independence, Missouri, where the Mormons were. I'll inject that. In Independence, he joined the expedition to Taos, New Mexico, hunting and trading. During the excursion, his horse broke and ran, forcing Pike to walk the remaining 500 miles to Taos. After this, he joined a trapping expedition to the Llano Estacado in New Mexico and Texas. Trapping was minimal, and after traveling about 1,300 miles, 650 on foot, he finally arrived at Fort Smith, Arkansas. Settling in Arkansas in 1833, he taught school and wrote a series of articles for the Little Rock, Arkansas Advocate under the pen name of Casca. The articles were popular enough that he was asked to join the staff of the newspaper. Later, after marrying Mary Ann Hamilton, he purchased part of the newspaper with the dowry. By 1835, he was the Advocate's sole owner. Under Pike's administration, the Advocate promoted the viewpoint of the Whig Party in a politically volatile and divided Arkansas. I say Arkansas, folks, because my ex-wife is from Arkansas. She's from Mena. Have you ever heard any scandals that come out of Mena, like C-130s and planes unloading cocaine? Oliver North, operations throughout Operation Pegasus, Chip Tatum. Boy, if you're really open and you've done a lot of research, you know what I just said. My ex-wife is from Mina. In 1986, I took a picture on the runway of the C-130 in front of two old dilapidated hangars and asked her, as we were fiancés, why do you have a C-130 here in this town of 5,000 people? You don't even have anything to pick up. What's it? She said, I don't know. What's a C-130? As I was taking a picture of it through the chain link fence. Anyway, I digress. As Richard from Boston says. Thank you, folks, for listening. This was a Plain Mundane show. Albert Pike, The Letter to Mazzini. It was a pleasure. I'm out. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Please hit like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications when I put out future videos. Goodbye.